Hey guys, welcome back to the Warren C Street Photography Podcast. It is 2025 and we are kicking off with our first episode of the season. So for those of you who are new to the Warren C Street Photography Podcast, what we do on this podcast is we talk about everything and anything around street photography. I go over a number of segments during the podcast to kind of get you thinking about our wonderful genre of street photography and kind of thinking out of the box about things. And let me break it down exactly what we do and how we go over it. So I'll go through these particular categories and we'll start off with trend being the first one. And I'll talk about something that I see as trending in the street photography world, or I'll talk about something that I think should be trending and the pros and cons of that, why it's trending or why I think it should be trending or why I think it shouldn't be trending at all. Then we go from there to the next category or segment of the podcast, which is who you repping. And in that one, I will generally talk about a street photography artist who has a book out, and I'll talk about that book, what that book does for me and helping me understand my style, what I can get from that book to enhance, increase, and mature my street photography style, as well as, again, what I like about what the artist did and what I see what type of style of street photographer the artist is. And then hopefully, again, have a book to show how they represent their work that you might want to look at adding to your library. So looking forward to this one. It's usually my favorite segment, as those of you who've been following the podcast on my YouTube channel, Warren C, know I really enjoy that segment because I do like giving a spotlight to street photography artists out there who've got publications out and who I think are doing a really good job with their works. From there, we go to the next category of segment, which is about gear around street photography. And we will basically talk about gear aspects or gear as it pertains to street photography and how I feel it may be important or not important, overlooked, and so forth, and kind of get you guys thinking about that topic and looking for your thoughts and comments on it as well, on what you think about the particular topic and gear that I brought up for us to discuss in the comments, and see what you guys, again, are thinking and feeling about your street photography gear based on the topics that we cover each episode. And then we finish off with a Q&A question that I ask the community. And I will generally, just like with the trending and just like with the gear section, talk about my thoughts on the question itself to kind of also give you guys an idea of how I think you should maybe be thinking about the topic, or just look for you in the comments to give me your thoughts and your feelings around the question that I'm posed to the community in this podcast. Again, to get you thinking about your photography as it relates to street photography and how you go out and approach things based on the questions that I tend to ask. So that is a street photography podcast with Warren C, and how it pretty much goes from A to Z. And we will kick it off with, of course, trends. Okay. So as 2024 ended and we rolled into 2025, pretty much what I saw on like YouTube, what creators were trying to do, what the camera companies were trying to do, and what I see now as 2025 starts off is a trend toward the nostalgic feel of the camera bodies, like it was back in the early DSLR days or the point and shoot days or the film days, where folks are looking for what the Nikon ZF was able to do and bringing some nostalgia to a mirrorless camera and giving folks that nostalgic feel, and having great success Nikon has had with the Nikon ZF. And we all know, of course, about Fuji and what Fuji has done with their nostalgic look on the XT5 or XT single digit line, if we'll say, and then of course the X100 series. And you guys know, of course, how I feel about that, right? Because I got an X106, I've had a 4, I've had a 5, I started with the 4, and I really love the nostalgic look of that camera and the film look that it gives. And it's one of the reasons too why I still have that camera after doing my culling like I did back in November with my gear. That was definitely going to hang around. But I look at it and I say to myself, well, what's pushing this trend, right? Why are folks looking at that nostalgic look? Why was Nikon so successful? And the first thing I think of is because literally, I think Nikon saw what they were able to do with the ZFC and the response that they got for it, and capitalized on it. They saw what Fuji has been able to do with the X100 series, the XT single digit series, and the X Pro series, and it capitalized on it. Heck, even the XE series to me has somewhat of a film nostalgic look, DSLR. So for those of you who aren't listening to the podcast on an audio platform, but also can listen to it on a video platform, or for those of you watching this on my YouTube channel, you'll see that I'm holding in my hand a Canon AE1 program. This is one of my film cameras. I love the look of this camera. When I look at my mirrorless cameras, where I see a lot of camera companies going to bring that nostalgia in, it reminds me of a film camera, like what again Nikon did with the ZF. Will we see more? I think so. There are rumors that Canon's going to be doing this, something similar what Nikon did, and bringing out a nostalgic mirrorless camera to their lineup. And if they do it, I know they're going to make a lot of Canon folks happy, because how happy folks are with the ZF. Even I had a ZF. Now, the reason I don't have a ZF now is because, again, if you follow my channel, I went through a culling process based on what I use for my paid work and what I plan to use for travel and EDC everyday gear going forward, and getting rid of the overlap. And for me, I am still a big fan of Fuji, and I just, my X100 6 was definitely gonna take over that spot and be utilized more than I would utilize the Nikon ZF, especially when I have the Nikon Z8 I'm using for my pro work. So the other thing I looked at too was, what else could be pushing this? What else could be looking at? And then, of course, without fail, I see that Petapixel did something on point and shoots, and the resurgence of point and shoots, and what folks might be looking at and why. And I was there too. I agree with them. I've never been a big iPhone or smartphone picture shooter. Not to say I didn't get fantastic or great images from my iPhones that I took pictures with. Even my iPhone 16 right now will, in a pinch, will be my B cam if, say, the batteries die on my my Hero 10, or if the batteries die on my Osmo Pocket 3. I will absolutely use that phone for its video features, but I've never really been big on the stills part of my smartphones. I've always referred or went back to using my camera. I like the quality of the sensor. It's bigger. There's reasons why bigger sensors matter. There is reasons why sensor size matters based on what you're doing. And I always found that I tried to use my phone in low light, and it just was not cutting it with the size of the sensor. I know there's a lot of computation going on now, AI computation going on smartphones to really stack and those images and give you more detail, which is great. But I still will rather actually pick up a camera and take pictures, even if it's a camera with a smaller sensor than what I'm using now on my APS-C and full frame, like a Micro Four Thirds. I will pick up a Micro Four Thirds point and shoot over my smartphone to take images. So I wonder if that, like Petapixel even mentioned, is a big push. When it comes to social media and things like that, yeah, it's nice. But when I really want to take pictures that I want to get some good quality for, at least me, I definitely will not be using my smartphone. I'd rather use a point and shoot that I can pull out. And for me, my X100 6 it's like my point and shoot. So when it comes to the mirrorless side, and then I thought about, like, all of the hype, was that a factor in it? Like all of the hype from all of the Fuji cameras, the Leica Q series, which is really got folks wanting to get a EDC camera that has good quality image taking to it, and using that over their smartphone. So that brings us back to the smartphone. Also, you had Lumix that came out with their S9. If they continue to improve on that S9, maybe put a digital viewfinder option for you on there. I don't know if one exists or not, but that would be nice. You know, that camera with some of the lenses that are now coming out is pretty much pocketable. You know, I think Bright and Star has a lens out that I just got. It is a pancake lens that's a like an M mount, and you put that with adapter, it's still super small and flat to the body of the camera. You know, I can see putting that on something like a S9, and that thing goes in your pocket. You know, and you can use the manual features on that, and I think that would be fantastic. But again, those are the reasons why I think folks will go on there. Now let's get to, do I like it? And I honestly have to say yes, I do like it, because for the same reasons I like that, you have a Q3, you have an X100, you have an S9. If Sony, with all of the videos I've seen lately on the RX1R, would come back out, you'd have that. Bringing out this more nostalgic cameras gives more variety. At the same time, I know it pushes the brands to say, hey, let's put something out and take advantage of that market as well, which again brings more variety. So that's the positive thing I like about it. The things that I don't know if I would care too much about is whether it's hybrid or not. I honestly can say it was one of the things in one of my videos where I did a video on the YouTube channel about what Fuji should do with the X106 when it comes out. And I know that Fuji has a big push that on all their cameras, they kind of have a hybrid feature to them. And I really didn't care for that part on my X100V, or for that matter, my X100F, which is for 4. I didn't really care for it having the video. I cared more for the stills factor in it. And one of the things I said was, I honestly didn't know if I cared how good the video would be on an X106. But there were some things that if they were going to put video on it, make it easier for me to do video, you know, which they did with the new processor. But I don't care if that camera is hybrid. I care more for a point and shoot. But that's just me. But it is nice, I will say, to be able to get some video snippets if that's what you're into, and have it all on one camera and have some decent quality video. Now, as a person that does YouTube content and all that stuff, I do like the fact that that camera has really good video quality on it and has gotten better in the 6 version over the 5. I like that the processor is giving me capabilities that I see in my H2S here that I'm filming this on, like, you know, being able to program a button on the top of that camera and use it as an instant record off and on. I think that's great. So even like having something like the S9, yeah, that's nice. It's nice to have some video if you're out there. It's nice for content creators as well, but that's not the reason why I would want to get a nostalgic camera. So when I did have the Nikon ZF, I did really enjoy using that camera. Yes, it was redundant for what I had as far as my gear lineup, and that's why I decided to let it go. But its image quality was great. Its video quality is great. You know, and anybody that grabs that camera, if there's definitely in the Nikon ecosystem, they're going to really love that. So if Canon comes out with one, I think it's a smart move. If Sony decides to redo the RX1R or come out with something else with a nostalgic, which to me, for them, that is their nostalgic, right? I don't know if they really have a nostalgic film style type camera. It looks like that. But I think they would do, by them doing that, I think it helps with, again, giving us a little diversity in brands and product and making it easier for folks to get those products. but I think that nostalgic look, that trend that I see, is nice. I like going out with my X100 I like going out with my X100 series cameras since I've had them, and I love the comments I get when people think it's a film camera. I think the cameras look great. They look sexy, and I don't know what the camera is that Canon is rumored to be coming out with that's nostalgic, but as I hold up this Canon AE1, I mean, if they turn this into a mirrorless camera and gave me lenses to match the vintage style of the camera that they plan on bringing out, I think that would be fantastic. So, and that's one of the things I did not like about the Nikon ZF, is that I didn't really have vintage lenses to match the style of that camera. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about that trend? I mean, it's seriously trending. I mean, you see videos left and right. I see blogs talking about it. What do you think about the resurgence of not just point and shoots, but nostalgic style mirrorless cameras? Let me know in the comment if you agree with my comments on why I think it's a good thing or a bad thing. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to, like I said, my favorite part of the podcast, and hopefully it's for a number of you, and y'all let me know if it isn't, but it's who you reppin'. So this month, who we reppin' is Mr. Brandon Stanton. Mr. Brandon Stanton. Let me make sure I say that last name right. And Mr. Brandon Stanton is out of Marietta, Georgia. At least that's where I believe he was born. I know as he's gone about doing his thing with his photography, he's come out with books. He's done street photography projects in Chicago and in New York. And he is active in some things. His website, which is the namesake of the book I'm holding up, so let me hold that up. Humans of New York. His website, humansofnewyork.com, has information on that project in essence, and I believe you can go to that other links on his site and see what other things he's involved in. He has an active Instagram account too, which I'll drop in the comments along with the website. And let's talk about the book though. Let's talk about why I got this book. So if you guys followed me long enough, or you've listened to a number of the podcast episodes from last year, you know that when I do my street photography, I love taking pictures of people. So out of the different styles, genres, whatever you want to call them, of street photography, portrait photography, where either it's candid, like, you know, unobtrusive, if you will, or whether it's me asking for a portrait, which I think is more portrait style street photography, where you're actually asking for a portrait. Those are two of my most sought after styles of going out and shooting. Doing candid shooting, doing portrait, and then looking at maybe geometric shapes and stuff like that, you know, when it comes to street photography. And this book is nothing but image after image after image of portraits, with him going out in this project, taking portraits of people. And a lot of the images in this book, he definitely is asking for images to be taken of people. So here's one here's a couple right here as I hit the mic. Sorry about that. And a lot of it is in color. A lot of it, folks are posing for him. But he's taking pictures of the wonderful characters of New York. Some, again, unobtrusive, candid shots where he's not getting involved in the scene. He's just taking pictures of the scene. Other ones, he is literally getting a portrait of the person, whether he's either asking for it, let me get this out of the glare, or whether he is they're posing for him, or they see him coming with the camera, and he takes the images. And that's the part about street photography, again, that I enjoy, is the interaction with humans. And they have a full book of his interaction, taking images of people in the street of New York, doing their thing, living their life, enjoying their style. I mean, New York is one of those places, as we all know, if you've looked at anybody's book or anybody's YouTube page or YouTube channel like mine, it's Warren C, and seeing what we do, a lot of the times we are taking pictures of people doing their thing, living their life. And with all of the people and the person who's grown up in New York City, and seeing all of the characters that you can have walk past you, sit next to you on the train, all the different events that go on, all the different ways people want to express themselves through their clothes. One of the things growing up in New York that we didn't have where I live was, we didn't have pools. That I didn't get used to seeing pools like I see now until I moved out to the Midwest into Michigan, where having pools in a high school was nothing. Having pools in a community was nothing. Community center is nothing. Well, in New York, we had a pool. It was a community pool, and it covered a large area of an area of New York where people would come to that public pool and swim, and it could be super crowded. So half the time, we opened up a fire hydrant and we played in the water, or we got the little kiddie tub, put it out on the curb, filled it up with water, and had the little kids playing in that for the family that did it, right? He has images of life in New York with the people being who they are, and I think that's just awesome when it comes to why I like this book and how it actually inspires me to be more sociable as I do my street photography, talking with people, looking for opportunities to ask for a photo or take a photo. In a lot of cases, it's just a simple head nod acknowledgement to somebody that's doing their thing to take a photo. People generally are nice that you run into on the street. Generally are nice, and just an acknowledgement in a lot of cases before you take the image is all folks want, to give you that okay to take their image. And I love that he uses a lot of color in here. Honestly, I don't know if I really seen any black and white. So he's using color so he can not only capture the person, but capture the emotion of the moment, which is what color will do. Color will show you the emotion of the moment. It'll show you what time of day it is. It'll show you more of what's going on in the expressions of the folks as well. It'll show the emotion of what's going on in the scene with the people he's taking pictures of. Where, of course, again, black and white gives you more of a timeless look, points you more to exactly, I think, to what the photographer is trying to get you to focus on. But again, where color drives more emotion, and his use of color on these images or add to, I think, bringing out the characteristics of the people he took pictures of. One of my favorites, it's been a minute, I will admit, since I've been through this book. One of my favorites as I run through is his image of this young man right here. Let me get this down. There we go. Of that young man just smiling at the fact that he's having a picture taken care of him, or taken of him, excuse me. So when it comes to what I learned from this book, like I said, the key is trying to be more sociable, because at times, I will admit, even if you look at YouTubers who do a lot of street photography, we could be quite to ourselves type of creatures. We're just out trying to be invisible, right? So that we can capture the moment in a candid, unobtrusive way. But at times, some of the best pictures you may be able to take on an outing is your interaction with the people on the street and getting an image of them, so that's one of the things I'm getting from this as well. The other thing is again, knowing when it's the right time to use color in your image to capture the emotion of the character or the environment that you're shooting in, versus black and white. And then two, he got in close. And and getting that close in some of these images, especially the ones where he's posing the person, that means he had to talk to that person and so forth to get that image. Because a lot of these images where he got in close, to me, it helps to bring out what he was trying to capture and that emotion with the color of that person, and what they were doing or what was going on at the time. So, and that's why I think if you are looking for a book that's going to show you or get you motivated in being able to get out there and take pictures of people and be able to enjoy the interactions that you can have when you're out doing street photography, this is a good book to have in your library to go back to and see from his images what he did, what he captured, and so forth. Now, like right now, not all of us can be in a wonderful big city like New York, where you have a plethora of interesting people to capture. From time to time, I go between Detroit and Ann Arbor, and yes, they do have their share of interesting characters that I know I can get images of, but not on the level that, say, a New York would have. So that's who we repping for today's podcast episode, Mr. Brandon Stanton. This is his book, Humans of New York. Definitely check it out. Rent it at the library if you don't want to buy it yet, and get a sense of how he went about capturing his portrait work of people doing their thing, being who they are, full-blown 100% in your face character, and see if maybe you could duplicate the same thing and enjoy the experience of communicating and socializing. So enjoy that one. Hopefully you guys get as much out of that as I did. So with the next section category, we're going to get into gear. And last year, gear was always an interesting topic for me because of how I actually feel about gear. Gear, you see a lot of videos on YouTube where folks are talking about essential gear or the gear I use to get the best shot, the gear I use that helped me become a better photographer. And it's usually around the camera. And sometimes it's the lens. But as us street photographers know, us folks that just go out and shoot know, and I can honestly say, even when it comes to shooting in other scenarios, like on location or in a studio, the camera is important. But there's other things about street photography that's just as important to me to help you get the images and captures that you're looking for. And I've said this on some of my YouTube actual channel videos about what I think a person should look at getting to be successful in capturing the images that they want to capture. And for me, when it comes to gear and essential gear, I think for a street photographer, outside of the camera, and we'll see even the lens to a point, it's the other stuff you need, like a good bag, like a good pair of shoes with good soles and good cushioning, a food spot. Yes, I said that, a food spot. One that you can go to if you're out for a couple of hours, get yourself refilled, use the bathroom, and then get back out there and shoot. Knowing what the weather's going to be like is important. I use my weather app a lot when it comes to me going out and planning a shoot, whether I'm going downtown Detroit or I'm going to downtown Ann Arbor, or I'm deciding I'm going to hit a festival somewhere. The weather is important because I got to know how to dress. I got to make sure I'm comfortable. I got to think about my batteries for the camera, because cold weather will zing batteries. They will zing some lithium batteries in a heartbeat. And, where am I going to put those batteries? Do I have the right coat on with the right pockets on so that it'll help me store my gear and be able to keep my batteries warm so that they hold on to that battery life longer, and I'm not putting a battery so cold in my camera that it's depleted of energy because the cold is zapping it, right? And like I said, not just a bag, the right bag, so do I have enough space? Am I bringing too much? And what I mean by space is when I go down to Eastern Market, I go to shoot, but it's a market. It's a market area with goods from vendors, from food to non-perishable items to like clothes and things like that. Art, folks selling their art and from the woodworking art stuff, items to folks trying to get you to try their perishable items like hot sauce and things like that, or get you some vegetables and so forth. And I want to bring a bag with me, not just to store my camera gear, but also to store gear that I buy, in the form of a t-shirt, in the form of a hoodie, in the form of vegetables and fruit, because they're those type of vendors there. So I think as a street photographer, you got to think about everything when you go out to know that you're going to be ready for it, not just taking the images. The camera in all honesty, is the easiest part. If I was to take my X100V with me, or this Canon AE1, if I was to take this Canon AE1 with me, I'm good. I got a 50 mil lens on there. I got a 35 mil lens that goes with that. I got film in it. I have an extra roll of film, and that requires a coat pocket at times, especially when it's cold. If it's warm, it could be a very small bag. But if I'm going to a market area like Eastern Market where I may want to buy some goods, I need a bigger bag. I need the right bag. So yeah, what do you guys think about my thoughts on what I think truly is essential gear for a street photographer when they go out to help them while they're out doing their thing, getting images? You know, it goes beyond just the camera and the lens in a lot of cases for folks, and that for a street photographer, for when I go out, I mean, do I have the right bag? Like I said, what about food? What about bathroom, right? How am I take care of my batteries? What's the weather like? Am I wearing the right clothes? You know, it's 16 degrees right now in my area. In downtown Detroit, in Ann Arbor, it's about 17 degrees. So it's cold, you know. I'm going to put some long johns on, thermal underwear, a base layer, to go shoot street photography, guys. We ain't talking about going skiing or snowboarding or hiking in up north in the UP. You know, we talking Detroit, and it is 16 degrees. It got to 3 degrees last night. So, but then when the weather is nice, it can be pretty hot. So again, what am I bringing? Am I putting on a hat? What am I doing to help make sure that I can put myself in a situation to be at my best to capture my images, comfortable, bathroom ready, food, and all that good stuff. So enough rambling on that. You guys let me know what you think in the comments about your essential street photography gear. Outside of the camera and the lens, what is that for you? You know, I'd like to hear in the comments what you guys think about that. So let's go ahead and move on to Q&A, our last section of the podcast. And this one I actually had to think about a little bit because it hit me on one of my end of the year outings, just going out and shooting. And I wanted to practice what I saw from one of the books from the podcast last year, where the photographer sat still more and fished and waited for the opportunities to happen in front of them. And it got me thinking about the opportunities themselves and how we might look at these opportunities. So bear with me. So here's the question. Are you an optimistic or pessimistic shooter? That's right. That's the question. Are you an optimistic or pessimistic shooter? And what I mean by that is, of course, the words and the true definitions of the words. Optimistic meaning you feel good about that outing. You feel good about your location. You feel good about the fact that, you know, there's going to be a good opportunity that you're going to capture some images that you're going to be happy with. Period. That's it. You don't know if you don't think about things that would prevent you or change your thought process on you not being able to go out and not walking away with some images that you're going to like. You don't care what the weather is at the moment. You don't care what's going on at the location, if there's enough activity going on or not. You feel real good that something's going to happen and you're going to get what you came out there to get. Or you're the pessimistic style shooter where I hope I get something good. This weather sucks. There's not a lot of people out today because the weather's bad. It's overcast and it's cloudy and it's gloomy. Man, I don't know if I brought the right camera with me. I don't know if I have the right lens. Should I have brought my point and shoot? You know, or is, you know, should I shot with film? Because this has been a chance for me to shoot with film. Well, we're just going to see what happens. And you go out there with the thought process of, you're going to hope that you can get something, but the odds are stacked against you that you might not get something. And that dictates your mood for shooting. It may even prevent you from getting some good shots because you're in that type of mood. So I can honestly say I'm more of an optimistic shooter. One, I think it's because I actually like being outdoors, and shooting gives me an opportunity to be outdoors. I will take what I get, because as we shoot street photography and start to get some time under our belt getting out shooting, street photography, you get what you get. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's better to be optimistic about the fact of just getting out there and shooting, or instead of being pessimistic about it and maybe never even going out the door. So I have to ask you guys, what are you? And don't just say I'm optimistic too, Warren. I can be a little pessimistic at times. Like right now, it's too cold to go outside. The likelihood that there are people are outside and out doing what I need at the level I would like to see them at is pretty slim. So that's a good reason to say, I'm gonna just stay home. There ain't no reason to go outside. It's just, it's muck outside, right? Or I could be more optimistic about that and say, well, you know what? Maybe I go out and do a different form of street photography where it doesn't really matter as much if people are in the photo. Maybe I go out and do geometric style photography where I'm taking pictures more of buildings and structures and geometric shapes. Maybe I go out and I look at doing more abstract street photography where it doesn't really matter if I have people in the photo. What matters is that I'm out and I'm looking for more of an abstract scene, blurred out glass, blurred out colors, maybe blur from the people that I do see. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a bird, but not necessarily the people I generally like to go after. So that's our question, guys. Again, hit the comments. Let me know. Are you more optimistic of a street shooter, or are you more pessimistic of a street shooter? It kind of relates to a previous podcast question where I asked if you were a fair weather shooter. This kind of goes into that as well on the pessimistic side, where if you're a fair weather shooter, that means the weather's gonna stop you in a lot of cases from going out. But I think if you look at other reasons on why you would want to go out and be more optimistic about it, you might get one of the best images you've ever gotten in the street. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the cast. Hope you enjoyed the topics we went through. Let me know in the comments again what you guys are thinking about all of the topics we went over today, and I will see you guys on the next cast.